Hello everyone. Welcome back to Naruto Fix. Today we have another interesting what if Naruto story. Which is what if Naruto accidentally became the most desired man in the Shinobi world and every Kunoichi wanted a place in his heart. Part 1. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy this content. Now, without wasting any time, let's begin. The day Naruto Uzumaki accidentally became the most desired man in the Shinobi world. Started with ramen. As most disasters in his life usually did, Naruto sat inside Ichiraku ramen, happily eating his sixth bowl. Life was good. No missions, no training, no Sakura punching him. Everything felt peaceful, which should have been his first warning. Because whenever life became peaceful, something ridiculous happened. Another bowl. Naruto shouted. Tsuki laughed. You're going to bankrupt me someday. Naruto grinned. Believe it. Suddenly, a shooting star crossed the sky. Nobody paid attention, except an old traveler sitting at the end of the restaurant. The old man slowly looked upward. His eyes widened. No, he whispered. Not that star. Several hundred kilometers away, deep within an ancient temple forgotten by history. A strange seal activated. Golden symbols illuminated walls that hadn't seen light for centuries. Dust exploded into the air. Ancient chakra awakened, and one forgotten artifact finally completed a process that had been waiting nearly 1,000 years. Back in Konoha, Naruto finished eating, stretched, yawned, and left, completely unaware that his life had just become infinitely more complicated. The next morning, everything seemed normal. At first, Naruto walked toward Training Ground 7. Birds sang. The weather was nice. Nothing unusual. Then he noticed Sakura. Normally Sakura ignored him, or punched him. Usually both. Today, she smiled. Naruto froze. Sakura smiled again. A genuine smile. Good morning, Naruto. Naruto immediately looked around. Who's Naruto? I'm talking to you. The blonde shinobi pointed at himself. Me. Sakura giggled. Actually giggled. Naruto nearly fainted. Because Sakura Haruno had never giggled at him before. Ever. What happened to you? Naruto asked carefully. Sakura blinked. What do you mean? Quote. You smiled. Quote. Yes. At me. Quote. Yes. Naruto slowly backed away. You're scaring me. Several minutes later Sasuke arrived. The Uchiha immediately noticed something strange. Sakura wasn't looking at him. At all. Instead she kept glancing toward Naruto. Again, and again, and again. Sasuke frowned. Naruto frowned. Kakashi frowned. Nobody understood what was happening. Unfortunately, things became much stranger. The following day Ino suddenly approached Naruto. Voluntarily, Naruto immediately became suspicious. Very suspicious. Because Ino usually spent most of her time fighting Sakura over Sasuke. Now she was standing directly in front of Naruto. Smiling. Hi Naruto. Naruto looked behind himself. Nobody. Then he looked left. Nobody. Then right. Nobody. Finally. Are you okay? Ino laughed. I should ask you that. Naruto's danger instincts activated. Because this entire situation felt wrong. Very wrong. Meanwhile across the village, a mysterious golden glow briefly appeared around Naruto before fading away. Nobody noticed, except the third Hokage. The old man immediately frowned. Because that chakra felt familiar. Extremely familiar. The problem. The chakra belonged to an artifact that supposedly disappeared centuries ago. Which was impossible. Absolutely impossible. Several days passed. The situation continued worsening. Hinata became even more nervous around Naruto than usual. Tenten suddenly volunteered to train with him. Temari from the Sand Village spent suspiciously long conversations talking to him. Even older Kunoichi seemed unusually friendly. Naruto remained completely clueless. Why is everyone being nice? Sasuke stared. The Uchiha genuinely couldn't decide whether Naruto was lucky or stupid. Possibly both. You're seriously asking that? Yeah, Sasuke sighed. You'll figure it out eventually. Narrator's note. He would not. 1 week later, the Chunin exam registration began. Genin from every village arrived. The academy became crowded. Powerful shinobi, talented prodigies, future legends, and somehow, almost every female participant noticed Naruto. Almost immediately, Naruto noticed nothing, absolutely nothing. Hiba finally snapped. How are you this dense? Naruto blinked. What did I do? Everyone present wanted to scream. Meanwhile, far beneath Konoha, an ancient scroll opened by itself. Words appeared across its pages. The writing revealed a forgotten truth. Hundreds of years ago, a sage created an artifact. A unique seal, one designed to identify the individual with the greatest emotional potential in every generation. Not strength, not beauty, not talent, heart. The seal would activate automatically when it discovered someone worthy. Then subtly amplify that person's natural charisma and emotional presence. The result, people would unconsciously feel drawn toward them, inspired by them, comforted by them, trust them, care about them. The artifact had remained dormant for centuries, until it encountered Naruto Uzumaki, and decided, yep, that's the one. The problem, the artifact wasn't designed for someone like Naruto. Someone whose natural personality already attracted people. The effect became magnified, massively magnified, which meant things were only beginning. Because Konoha wasn't the entire Shinobi world. And very soon, Kunoichi from other villages, missing nin, princesses, future legends, and women Naruto hadn't even met yet, would start noticing him too. All while Naruto remained completely unaware. And that was exactly what made the situation so dangerous. Naruto had a problem. Unfortunately, he didn't know he had a problem. The Chunin exams officially began. Hundreds of genin gathered inside the academy building. The atmosphere was intense, competitive, dangerous. Exactly what Naruto expected. What he didn't expect was every conversation somehow ending with girls talking to him. Good luck, Naruto. A female genin from the grass village smiled. Thanks. Several minutes later, try not to get hurt. A Kunoichi from the rain village said. Okay. 10 minutes later, you have nice eyes. Another random Kunoichi informed him. Naruto nearly walked into a wall. What is happening? Nobody answered. Because nobody knew. Except one person. The third Hokage. And he was rapidly developing a headache. Inside his office sat dozens of reports. Each report described the same thing. Female shinobi becoming unusually interested in Naruto Uzumaki. The pattern was becoming impossible to ignore. Hiruzen sighed heavily. Why him? Because honestly, only Naruto could accidentally become involved in something like this. Meanwhile, the written exam began. Ibiki Morino entered the room. His intimidating presence immediately silenced everyone. The first test started. Normally students focused entirely on the questions. This year, not exactly. Naruto sat near the center, trying very hard to understand question 3. He was failing, spectacularly. Unfortunately, several nearby Kunoichi were paying much more attention to Naruto than the test. One girl from Waterfall Village stared. Another from Cloud Village stared. A third from Sand Village stared. Naruto remained completely unaware. Anko watching from outside eventually noticed. Then noticed more, and more, and more. Eventually. What? Because now even she was confused. The exam finally ended. Naruto survived thanks to sheer determination and luck. Just like history intended. The Forest of Death arrived next. And things escalated immediately. The moment Naruto entered the forest, the strange attraction effect intensified. The ancient artifact seemed to love emotional situations. Danger, courage, self-sacrifice, kindness. Every time Naruto displayed those traits, the effect strengthened, which became a huge problem. Because Naruto displayed those traits constantly. Hours later Team 7 encountered another group. The battle started. Kunai flew. Explosions echoed. Trees shattered. During the fight Naruto noticed one enemy hesitating. A female genin. She had a clear opening. A perfect chance to attack. Yet she didn't. Instead she looked confused. Very confused. Naruto used the opportunity to disarm her. The battle ended shortly afterward. As Team 7 left, the girl continued staring. Naruto frowned. That was weird. Sasuke immediately replied, everything around you is weird. A completely fair observation. Several days passed. Then disaster arrived. Or rather, Temari arrived. The sand Kunoichi encountered Naruto alone near a river. At first it was a normal conversation. Then it wasn't. Temari found herself genuinely enjoying his company. Naruto made her laugh, which annoyed her, because Naruto wasn't supposed to be funny. He was supposed to be loud, annoying, immature. Instead he turned out to be surprisingly easy to talk to. The artifact happily amplified everything. Naruto remained clueless. Again, elsewhere, Hinata Hyuga was having the worst week of her life. Because somehow, Naruto had become even more attractive, which shouldn't have been possible. The poor girl could barely function. Every time Naruto smiled, critical damage. Every time Naruto encouraged someone, critical damage. Every time Naruto acted heroic, maximum critical damage. Kurenai eventually became concerned. Hinata, why yes, are you alright? Hinata immediately turned red, which answered absolutely nothing. Back in the forest of death, Orochimaru finally made his move. The disguised Sannin approached Team 7. Killing intent flooded the forest. The atmosphere became suffocating. Sakura froze. Sasuke trembled. Naruto prepared himself. Then something unexpected happened. Orochimaru paused. The Sannin stared directly at Naruto. Several moments passed. Then, what? The legendary criminal blinked. Actually blinked. Because even Orochimaru could feel the strange effect. Not romantically, but emotionally. The ancient artifact enhanced every positive aspect of Naruto's personality. Compassion, determination, charisma, willpower. Even someone like Orochimaru noticed. And found it strange. Very strange. The battle proceeded. History mostly remained unchanged. Yet Orochimaru left with a question he couldn't answer. Why did Naruto Uzumaki feel different from everyone else? Days later the preliminary matches began. The arena filled with spectators. The fights started, one after another. Then Naruto defeated Kiba, just like before, except this time, the audience reaction became ridiculous. Female spectators cheered loudly, much louder than expected. Naruto waved happily, completely missing the point. Kiba stared. Kill me. The dog user had reached his limit. Meanwhile the mysterious artifact continued working. Its power growing stronger. Because Naruto kept doing exactly what it rewarded. Helping people, protecting friends, refusing to quit, inspiring others. The effect was becoming exponential. And nobody realized the true problem yet. Because Konoha wasn't the danger. The danger was outside Konoha. Far away, hidden villages, royal families, powerful clans, future allies, future enemies. Soon they would all begin hearing stories. Stories about a loud blonde ninja. A boy who inspired everyone around him. A boy people naturally trusted. A boy whose presence seemed impossible to forget. And as those stories spread, the number of people interested in Naruto would continue increasing. Much faster. Unfortunately for everyone involved, Naruto still hadn't figured out what was happening. And if there was one thing more dangerous than a powerful shinobi, it was a completely oblivious powerful shinobi. The month between the preliminary matches and the final tournament should have been peaceful. For most people, not for Naruto, because the strange phenomenon surrounding him kept getting worse. Much worse. At first it was subtle. A smile here, a compliment there, an unusually friendly conversation. Now things were becoming impossible to ignore. One morning Naruto walked into Ichiraku Ramen. 3 different Kunoichi immediately waved. Naruto waved back. Chuki sighed. Ayame sighed. Even the customers sighed. Because somehow Naruto still hadn't figured it out. Why is everyone sighing? Naruto asked. Nobody answered. Several miles away, Sasuke suddenly sneezed. He wasn't even present. Yet somehow he felt annoyed anyway. Meanwhile, the third Hokage's investigation continued. Ancient scrolls, forbidden records, historical archives, everything pointed toward the same conclusion. The artifact wasn't malfunctioning. It was working perfectly, too perfectly, and the effects were still growing. The old Hokage looked toward the ceiling. Minato, I have no idea how your son keeps doing this. Quote, silence answered him, because even the fourth Hokage probably wouldn't understand. Days passed. Naruto's training intensified. The finals approached. Gaara grew more unstable. Orochimaru prepared his invasion. Political tensions increased. The future slowly moved toward disaster. Yet somehow, Naruto remained focused on training. Every morning, every afternoon, every evening, the harder he worked, the stronger the effect became. Because determination was one of the qualities amplified by the artifact. And Naruto possessed ridiculous amounts of determination. One evening Jiraiya arrived. The legendary Sannin immediately found Naruto. The moment he saw him, Jiraiya froze. Quote, interesting. Naruto groaned. Not you too. What? Everyone keeps saying that. Jiraiya narrowed his eyes. Because something definitely felt different. Not chakra. Not a genjutsu. Something stranger. The Toad Sage couldn't explain it. Yet he immediately understood one thing. Naruto attracted attention. Far more attention than normal. And attention was dangerous. Especially for a Jinchuriki. The following weeks became a blur of training. Water balloons exploded. Trees shattered. Rasengan practice continued. Naruto improved rapidly. And every improvement made him more inspiring to people around him. Even unintentionally. One afternoon he helped an elderly villager carry supplies. The next day half the neighborhood was talking about how kind Naruto was. Another afternoon he encouraged a struggling academy student. 3 days later the story had spread across the village. Naruto wasn't trying. That was the problem. Nothing felt forced. Everything was natural. The artifact simply amplified what already existed. Then the finals arrived. The arena filled with thousands of spectators. Kage from different villages attended. Powerful shinobi gathered. The atmosphere felt electric, exciting, dangerous. Naruto stood inside the waiting area, completely unaware that multiple female spectators had specifically come to watch his match. Again, completely unaware. You're hopeless, Sasuke informed him. What did I do now? The Uchiha simply walked away. Some battles couldn't be won. Naruto vs Neji finally began. The crowd cheered. The arena fell silent. The battle started. Neji attacked relentlessly. Precise strikes. Perfect defense. Superior technique. Naruto refused to quit. Again. And again. And again. Every time he stood back up. The audience reacted. Every time he kept fighting. The audience reacted. Every time he refused to surrender. The audience reacted. The artifact practically glowed with happiness. Because this was exactly the kind of moment it loved. Inspiration, hope, determination. The very traits it was designed to amplify. When Naruto finally defeated Neji. The stadium exploded. Cheers echoed everywhere. The crowd stood. People shouted his name. Even experienced Jonin looked impressed. Naruto smiled. A genuine smile. And somewhere in the audience, several hearts skipped beats. Unfortunately, the celebration didn't last long. Because disaster arrived. The invasion began. Genjutsu spread. Explosions erupted. Chaos consumed Konoha. The finals became a battlefield. Naruto immediately sprang into action. Protecting civilians. Helping shinobi. Rescuing people. Exactly the sort of thing the artifact adored. Which meant the effect intensified again. Far beyond previous levels. Meanwhile Gaara transformed. Shukaku emerged. The giant beast roared. The forest trembled. The battle became catastrophic. Naruto pursued him. Sakura was captured. Sasuke struggled. History moved forward. Yet during the battle, something unexpected happened. Gaara looked directly at Naruto. And paused. Because even through madness, even through Shukaku's influence, Gaara sensed something. Something familiar. Loneliness. Pain. Determination. Hope. Naruto's words reached him, not because of the artifact. Because they were genuine. The artifact only amplified sincerity. It couldn't create it, and Naruto possessed sincerity in overwhelming amounts. The battle ended. Gaara changed. The invasion failed. Konoha survived. The village celebrated. Heroes were praised. And Naruto returned home exhausted. He expected peace. Instead he found a pile of letters. A very large pile. Naruto stared. What is that? The Anbu delivering them looked uncomfortable. Mail. Quote. For me, yes. Naruto slowly approached. There were dozens. No, hundreds. Letters. Gifts. Messages. Invitations. From civilians. Shinobi. Nobles. Academy students. Travelers. And an alarming number from Kunoichi. Naruto's brain finally stopped working. What is happening? Elsewhere. Far away. Beyond Fire Country. Stories about Naruto Uzumaki continued spreading. To the sand. To the mist. To the cloud. To the stone. Each story growing larger. Each story becoming more legendary. And with every story, more people became curious, interested, drawn toward the mysterious blonde hero of Konoha. The most dangerous part. This was only the beginning. Because Naruto had accidentally become famous. And the Shinobi World hadn't even met him properly yet. Naruto stared at the mountain of letters sitting inside his apartment. For several minutes. Without moving. Without blinking. Without breathing. Then, what? Silence. Naruto pointed at the pile. What is this? The Anbu delivering the letters looked tired. Very tired. Mail. Quote. Naruto pointed again. That's not mail. It is. That's an entire mountain. The Anbu actually considered it fair. Naruto walked closer. The pile was enormous. Hundreds of envelopes. Gift boxes. Scrolls. Flowers. Cards. Invitations. Some came from civilians. Some came from merchants. Some came from shinobi. And disturbingly, most seemed to be from women. Naruto slowly picked one up. Then another. Then another. His confusion increased with every letter. You're amazing. You inspired me during the finals. Would you like to have dinner sometime? Please visit our village. Your smile is very handsome. Quote. Naruto immediately dropped that one. What? The Anbu vanished, leaving Naruto alone with his suffering. Hours later, Naruto was still reading. His brain hurt. Nothing made sense. Why were people suddenly acting like this? He was still Naruto, the loud idiot from Konoha. Nothing had changed. Except, apparently everything had changed. Meanwhile elsewhere, Jiraiya sat inside a restaurant. A report rested on the table. The legendary Sannin slowly read it. Then read it again. Then read it a third time. Finally, quote. Impossible. The report contained observations gathered from multiple villages. The conclusion was ridiculous, yet impossible to ignore. Naruto attracted people. Not through manipulation, not through genjutsu, not through deception, naturally, effortlessly, almost supernaturally. Jiraiya sighed. Of course it's Naruto. Because honestly, only Naruto could accidentally create a situation like this. Several days later, the village slowly recovered from the invasion. Repairs continued. Life returned to normal, at least for everyone except Naruto. Because his mail situation kept getting worse. Much worse. Every day new letters arrived. Every single day. Eventually he stopped reading all of them. There were too many. Then another problem appeared. Visitors. Actual visitors. People coming to meet him. Naruto opened his apartment door one morning. 3 girls immediately waved. Naruto closed the door, waited 5 seconds, then opened it again. They were still there. Nope. Door closed. Naruto genuinely considered moving. Across the village. Maybe across the continent. Unfortunately, that wouldn't help. The stories were already spreading. Fast. Very fast. Meanwhile in the sand village, Temari sat inside the Casecage's office. Or rather, Gaara's office. The young Casecage noticed something strange. His sister seemed distracted. Very distracted. Something wrong? Gaara asked. Temari blinked. What? You've read the same report 5 times. She immediately hid it. Too late. Gaara already saw the name. Naruto Uzumaki. The Kazekage stared, then stared harder, then slowly looked away. He understood. More than most people. After all, Naruto had changed his life. The blonde shinobi left impressions on people. Powerful impressions. Perhaps more powerful than anyone realized. Back in Konoha, Naruto received a mission. A simple escort assignment. Nothing dangerous, at least according to the paperwork. Naruto immediately became suspicious, because missions described as simple were never simple. Ever. Shikamaru joined him, along with several other genin. The journey began peacefully. Roads stretched ahead. Forests surrounded them. Everything seemed normal. Then they arrived at a small town. And chaos erupted. Because somehow, people recognized Naruto. Immediately, the group entered a restaurant. 5 minutes later, half the building wanted to talk to him. Shikamaru watched everything happen, then sighed. What a drag. Naruto looked horrified. I don't understand. Neither do we. The Nara genius answered. Which was true. Nobody understood. Not even the third Hokage. The artifact should have amplified Naruto's presence, not turned him into a walking natural disaster. Yet somehow, that was exactly what happened. Weeks passed. Naruto continued training. Jiraiya continued teaching him. The Akatsuki slowly moved in the shadows. And stories continued spreading. Eventually they reached the Mist Village. Then the cloud. Then the stone. Even remote settlements began hearing tales about Naruto Uzumaki. The hero of Konoha. The boy who defeated Gaara. The shinobi who never gave up. The loud idiot with a surprisingly big heart. Every storyteller added details. Every village exaggerated something. The legend grew, and the artifact amplified every bit of it. Months later, Jiraiya finally decided to take Naruto away from Konoha. Training journey, preparation, growth, all important reasons. The real reason, the village needed a break from Naruto's growing popularity. Unfortunately, the training trip only made things worse. Much worse. Because now Naruto traveled, meeting new people, helping strangers, saving civilians, inspiring villages. Every stop created more stories. Every story created more admirers. Every admirer created more chaos. One village gifted him flowers. Another gifted him food. Another gifted him handmade clothing. Naruto accepted everything politely, completely unaware of the implications. Jiraiya meanwhile watched reality unravel. Slowly, painfully, inevitably. Then came the day everything escalated beyond recovery. The day they arrived at Tanzaku town. The same town where history intended Naruto to meet Tsunade, the future 5th Hokage. At first everything proceeded normally. Naruto explored. Jiraiya searched for information. The town remained peaceful. Then Tsunade arrived. The legendary Kunoichi entered a restaurant and saw Naruto. For several seconds she simply stared. Not romantically. Not yet. Something else. Recognition. The resemblance hit immediately. Minato's eyes. Kushina's spirit. The same stubborn determination. The same ridiculous optimism. Something inside Tsunade softened. The artifact noticed, and immediately amplified the emotional connection. Not artificial feelings. Existing feelings. That was its true power. It enhanced what was already there. Nothing more. Nothing less. Which made it infinitely more dangerous. Because real emotions are stronger than fake ones. Naruto looked up. Their eyes met. Then he smiled. A genuine Naruto smile. Bright, warm, honest. Tsunade froze. Not because of attraction. Because for one brief moment, she remembered hope. A feeling she thought she'd lost years ago. And somewhere deep beneath Konoha, the ancient artifact glowed brighter than ever before. Because it had finally found its perfect host. Someone whose greatest strength wasn't power. Wasn't talent. Wasn't intelligence. It was his ability to touch people's hearts without even trying. Naruto Uzumaki. The most oblivious boy in the Shinobi world. And soon, the most desired man in it. Yet the true chaos hadn't begun. Because many of the women who would eventually change Naruto's life hadn't even met him yet, and destiny was already preparing their encounters. The moment Tsunade met Naruto, something changed, not because of the artifact, not because of destiny, because Naruto reminded her of people she had lost. The blonde hair, the stubborn attitude, the refusal to quit, the ridiculous confidence. For a brief moment, Tsunade saw echoes of both Minato and Naoki. And she hated it, not because she disliked Naruto. Because hope was dangerous. Hope led to attachment. Attachment led to loss. And loss led to pain. So naturally, the legendary Sannin immediately decided Naruto was annoying. Naruto had no idea. Old lady. Quote, the entire restaurant froze. Shizune froze. Jiraiya froze. Several customers froze. Tsunade's eye twitched. Old. Crack. Lady. Naruto suddenly experienced high-speed flight. The restaurant wall lost the battle. Several minutes later, Naruto sat outside holding his head. She's violent. Jiraiya laughed. That's actually one of her better reactions. Naruto wasn't sure whether that was comforting. The search for Tsunade continued. Meanwhile, the strange phenomenon surrounding Naruto kept growing. At first only ordinary civilians were affected. Now, experienced shinobi noticed it too. Not attraction. Not exactly. Trust. Respect. An instinctive feeling that Naruto was worth believing in. Even when logic suggested otherwise. And that was becoming powerful. Very powerful. Days later, Naruto officially learned the Rasengan. The moment he completed it, the surrounding area exploded with cheers. Villagers, travelers, merchants, random civilians. Nobody had any idea what happened. They simply saw Naruto succeed. And wanted to celebrate. Naruto looked confused. Did they know me? Jiraiya sighed. No. Then why are they cheering? That's the question everyone's asking. Even Jiraiya couldn't explain it anymore. The artifact was becoming ridiculous. And somewhere deep beneath Konoha, ancient seals continued glowing brighter. The artifact wasn't merely active now. It was evolving. Because Naruto's heart kept growing stronger. The more people he helped, the more people he inspired, the stronger the effect became. Months passed. Training continued. The Akatsuki moved. And eventually, the day arrived. Naruto returned to Konoha. Older, stronger, taller, and unfortunately, far more attractive. The village immediately noticed. Sakura noticed. Ino noticed. Hinata nearly stopped functioning. Tenten noticed. Several older Kunoichi noticed. And Naruto. Naruto noticed ramen. Nothing else. Absolutely nothing else. Sasuke returned shortly afterward. The reunion happened. Emotions ran high. Tensions exploded. History unfolded. Yet something strange happened during the reunion. Even after years apart, people naturally gravitated toward Naruto. Not Sasuke. Not Sakura. Naruto. The difference became impossible to ignore. Kakashi noticed. Yamato noticed. Even Sai noticed. Which was impressive because Sai barely understood normal emotions. One evening Sai actually asked, Naruto. Yeah, why do women keep staring at you? Naruto froze. Quote. They do. Sai stared. Long. Hard. Then looked toward the sky. As though asking for strength. Because Naruto's density was becoming legendary. Meanwhile, far away in the sand village, Temari received news. Naruto had returned, for reasons she absolutely refused to examine. The information made her smile. Then she became annoyed, because she smiled. Then she became annoyed at being annoyed. Gaara wisely avoided commenting. The Cage enjoyed living. Meanwhile, the Akatsuki finally attacked. Gaara was captured. The rescue mission began. Naruto rushed toward the sand village. Determined. Focused. Ready. The artifact loved this. Because nothing strengthened Naruto's emotional presence more than protecting people. The rescue operation succeeded. Gaara survived. The sand village celebrated. And once again, Naruto accidentally became even more popular. At this point the phenomenon was reaching absurd levels. Stories about him spread everywhere. The hero who saved the cage. The boy who never gives up. The shinobi who changes lives. Every story added another layer to his growing legend. Then came something nobody expected. Fan clubs. Actual fan clubs. Naruto discovered this by accident. As most disasters in his life occurred, he opened a door, and found a room full of people discussing him. Charts, photos, drawings, mission reports. Naruto immediately closed the door. Waited 10 seconds. Then reopened it. The room was still there. Nope. Door closed again. Naruto decided reality was broken. Which honestly wasn't far from the truth. Months later, the 5-Cage summit approached. Political tensions increased. The world moved closer to war. And Naruto continued attracting attention. Unfortunately, the attention was no longer limited to allies. Enemies noticed too. Powerful enemies. Dangerous enemies. Missing nin. Mercenaries. Political figures. Even some members of the Akatsuki became curious. Because Naruto's reputation was spreading faster than anyone expected. One day Conan heard his name. The next day Karen heard his name. The day after that, several powerful women across the continent heard stories about him. The legend kept growing, and Naruto kept remaining oblivious. Then the Fourth Great Ninja War began. The world changed overnight. Armies gathered. Alliances formed. Battles erupted. Death spread across nations. And in the middle of everything, Naruto shined brighter than ever. Because this was where he belonged. Protecting people. Inspiring people. Giving people hope. Every battlefield he visited transformed. Morale improved. Fear weakened. Determination increased. People wanted to fight beside him. Not because of the artifact. Because Naruto genuinely inspired them. The artifact merely amplified the effect. By now the distinction barely mattered. Naruto had become a symbol. And symbols are powerful. Very powerful. Eventually the war ended. Madara fell. Kagaya fell. Peace returned. The Shinobi World survived. Years later, Naruto stood atop the Hokage monument. The wind moved gently through his hair. The village stretched below. Peaceful. Alive. Happy. Exactly what he always wanted. Then footsteps approached. One set. Then another. Then another. Then another. Naruto turned around, and immediately realized he had made a terrible mistake. Because standing behind him was an alarming number of women. Sakura, Hinata, Ino, Temari, Tenten, Karen, and several others, all looking directly at him. Naruto's survival instincts activated. The women smiled. Naruto took a step backward. The women took a step forward. Naruto took another step backward. The women continued advancing. For the first time in his entire life, Naruto genuinely considered fighting Kagaya again. Because somehow that felt easier. And thus began the greatest challenge Naruto Uzumaki would ever face. Not becoming Hokage. Not defeating Madara. Not saving the world. But surviving as the most desired man in the entire shinobi world. Naruto's instincts screamed danger. The kind of danger no amount of training could prepare him for. The kind of danger even Sage Mode couldn't solve. The kind of danger that made fighting Madara seem reasonable. Standing before him were some of the most powerful women in the shinobi world. And all of them were staring at him. Naruto laughed nervously. Hey, nobody laughed back. The smile immediately disappeared from his face. This is bad. Very bad. Hinata stepped forward first, which shocked everyone. Because normally Hinata preferred hiding behind confidence rather than using it. Today was different. Very different. Hello Naruto. Naruto pointed toward her. You're brave today. Hinata immediately turned red. Steam practically appeared. Yet somehow, she didn't retreat, which terrified Naruto more. Meanwhile, Temari folded her arms. Seriously. Ino looked annoyed. What? He's complimenting her. Naruto blinked. What is happening? Nobody answered. Because nobody wanted to explain. Especially since explaining would create a war. A literal war. And the Fourth Great Ninja War had only recently ended. Nobody wanted a sequel. Elsewhere, Shikamaru sat on a rooftop, eating snacks. enjoying peace. Then he noticed a gathering forming around Naruto. The Nara genius immediately stood. Nope. He walked away. Fast. Very fast. Experience taught him important lessons. One of those lessons: never get involved when multiple powerful women focus on the same man. Nothing good comes from it. Nothing. Back near the Hokage monument, the situation continued deteriorating rapidly. Sakura crossed her arms. So Naruto. Yeah, who do you like? The world froze. Birds stopped singing. Wind stopped blowing. Reality itself seemed interested. Naruto stared, then stared harder, then pointed toward himself. Me. Sakura's eye twitched. Obviously you. Naruto immediately looked for escape routes. Unfortunately, all escape routes were blocked. Temari, Hinata, Ino, Tenten, Karen, several Anbu observing from afar. Even Kakashi somehow appeared nearby, reading his book, very obviously listening. The traitor. Naruto swallowed. Ramen. Silence. Complete silence. Then, Karen screamed, "That's not a person." Naruto disagreed. Ramen had always supported him. More than most people. Therefore Ramen deserved consideration. The argument made perfect sense. To him. Nobody else. Meanwhile deep beneath Konoha, the ancient artifact continued glowing. At this point it had essentially accepted Naruto as its favorite person. The seal had one purpose: find someone capable of inspiring others. Naruto exceeded expectations. Massively. The artifact had never encountered someone like him before, which explained why things became ridiculous. Months passed. Life slowly returned to normal. Or at least as normal as Naruto's life could become. The problem: normal now included constant attention. Every village welcomed him. Every nation respected him. Every gathering somehow turned into a Naruto appreciation event. And the women around him became increasingly bold. Unfortunately for them, Naruto remained Naruto. One day Hinata spent 30 minutes preparing a heartfelt confession. 30 entire minutes. Everything perfect. Every word planned carefully. Then she finally approached him. "And Naruto." "Yeah, Naruto smiled. Hinata nearly fainted. Then, "Do you know where Ichiraku is?" The confession died instantly. Hinata's soul left her body. Naruto remained oblivious. Elsewhere, Temari heard the story, and laughed for 10 minutes. Then tried confessing herself. The result somehow became worse. Because Naruto interpreted it as a strategic alliance discussion. Nobody understood how. Not even Naruto. Years continued passing. Naruto eventually became Hokage. The dream finally came true. The village celebrated. The Shinobi World celebrated. Everyone celebrated. And once again, women from every corner of the continent attended. The ceremony became chaos. Absolute chaos. At one point Sai actually created a chart. A literal chart, tracking the number of women interested in Naruto. The paper required additional pages. Shikamaru saw it, then immediately burned it. Too dangerous. A completely reasonable decision. Despite everything, Naruto never changed. That was the strange part. Fame didn't change him. Power didn't change him. Popularity didn't change him. He remained the same loud idiot who loved ramen and cared about people. And perhaps, that was exactly why everyone kept being drawn toward him. Not because he was perfect. Because he wasn't. Not because he was rich. Because he wasn't. Not because he was handsome. Though many disagreed. But because Naruto genuinely cared. About everyone. Friends. Strangers. Allies. Even enemies. That kind of heart was rare. Extremely rare. And the artifact merely helped people notice it. One evening, long after peace settled across the world, Naruto sat alone atop the Hokage monument, watching the sunset. The village below glowed golden. Peaceful. Beautiful. The kind of future he always dreamed about. Then familiar footsteps approached. Naruto sighed, without turning around. "How many this time?" Quote. A voice answered. 8. Naruto buried his face in his hands. "Only 8. Currently." The answer somehow made it worse. Naruto looked toward the sky, wondering where everything went wrong. Or perhaps, Where everything went right. Because despite all the chaos, despite all the attention, despite all the misunderstandings, he wasn't lonely anymore, and maybe that mattered most. The boy who once sat alone on a swing, had become someone the entire world cared about, whether he understood it or not. And somewhere deep beneath Konoha, the ancient artifact finally dimmed, its purpose fulfilled. It had found the one person worthy of carrying its blessing. Naruto Uzumaki, the hero of the Shinobi World, the seventh Hokage, and quite possibly, the most oblivious man in history.